Welcome to the Till Books Do Us Part podcast. I'm Justin.
And I'm Jackie. Join us each week as we, a husband and wife duo, deep dive and discuss your favorite books.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, guys. Welcome to a bonus episode.
Episode.
That's right. So the new chapter 27, Xaden's POV, was released.
So in case you weren't familiar with this, Rebecca Yarros released the paperback sprayed edges deluxe whatever version of Fourth Wing. And we already knew that the holiday edition had chapters 9 and 16 from Xaden's point of view. But this one includes yet another brand new, never before seen.
And a better one.
Yeah, in chapter 27.
It's the best of the three, I think.
I think so. I think it is.
And is that something we can expect to continue?
I don't know, but it was good. And honestly,
good. Yeah.
It was more than I was expecting. It was way more than I was expecting.
Yeah, it was a lot more than I was expecting, too. A lot of anti-Dane talk, which I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, of course.
So, spoiler, we're going to be obviously covering a bonus chapter. If you don't want this ruined for you and you haven't read it yet, then don't listen to it because we're going to ruin it for you.
Yep, we're also going to talk about things from Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as a part of our discussion, so Spoiler warnings there too. Also content warning, if you haven't listened before, we use bad words.
Yep, usually. We're going to today too.
Yep.
So I think what we're going to do first is, Jack, you've written a summary of chapter 27 to kind of catch people up.
Yeah, just briefly, so that you don't have to go back and read the original. I went and reread the original chapter 27 from Violet's point of view. And just briefly, this chapter is essentially when the squad is at Montserrat as their reward for winning the squad battle. And this is taking place after Xaden has shown up, this chapter. And most of the chapter takes place in the Watchtower. They're there with Mira. She's walking them through a scenario. Xaden speaks to Violet mind to mind for the first time in this chapter. And it's also when Mira gives Dane, Violet, and Xaden all that stern talking to. But after she finishes that, they learn that a drift of griffins is headed towards the outpost because the wards are down. And Xaden is tasked with getting Violet out and uses a kiss to distract her enough to make it happen. So already going into it, we knew it was going to be a meaty chapter from Xaden's point of view.
Meaty. Wow. Good use of words. Good use of meaty.
Meaty.
Yeah, again, we got quite a bit of notes, but I think you're going to start us off, and then it's pretty much just going to be back and forth the whole way.
Well, my first note was really more about, again, Rebecca Yarros came out and talked about how she chooses these Xaden point of view chapters because, again, spoiler, she has to choose one where his intrinsic abilities wouldn't be on full display because those are not revealed until the end of Iron Flame.
Right.
So you can't put that in a chapter of Fourth Wing in any way. So she says that she chooses scenes where Xaden is going to have his shields up, and he kind of comes right out and says that he does in this situation because of Dane.
Yeah, and it's tough because obviously we're doing the reread now and putting out episodes where we're specifically looking for any time that Xaden does use his intrinsic. And it's quite a bit.
It is.
Every episode I think besides maybe one, we've had
multiple.
Evidence.
And really, the only one that we didn't have a lot was because he wasn't in the chapters.
Right. So, there can't be but so many that he's not using them. Or we're just way overlooking into everything. Yeah,
the only thing that this sparked for me is the fact that really just implies that Xaden cannot use his intrinsic signet while he has his own shields up, which is tricky business because obviously he's going to want to have his shields up all the time.
Yeah.
And so how often is he even able to use that signet? And the other thing that it made me think of was that the situation with Varish, where Varish said that he caught Xaden fumbling his shield like a novice.
Yeah, so I don't understand any of that either because I thought shielding was something you could do simultaneously with anything else.
I thought so too.
I feel like, and again, I'd have to go back again and look at it again, but the times that we're getting it from Violet's point of view, which is Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, I feel like she is actively shielding while battling at times.
Right.
Or referencing her shields while battling, but using her signet, obviously, while battling. But I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I did feel like in this situation, it would make sense because Xaden would have potentially dropped his shields briefly in order to read Varish's intentions. And then Varish would have seen that as, oh, he's fumbling his shields. Whereas, no, he's actually
just, trying to use his Intrinsic. Or a Signet, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, his Intrinsic. He's not trying to use it. Well, I guess he is using his Intrinsic.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah. We got a bunch of them, and I'm glad. Go ahead and start this one. I can't wait for you to say this name.
Imogen.
She's bad, I'm telling you.
So exciting. I don't know why I got so much satisfaction out of this, but Imogen in this scenario, when we covered this chapter with Fourth Wing, I noted that Imogen was missing. She was there in the beginning when they first got there, and then for this section, her name was not mentioned anywhere. And we theorized that it was because Imogen was potentially out on a mission and had wiped their memories of her being there. So we were half right and half wrong.
Yeah, I mean, she was out on a mission.
She was out on a mission.
And she's willing to wipe anybody's memories.
Right.
She might not have done it. Maybe she did. Maybe she does at a different point.
Well, it said in this one, her excuse was that she was vomiting in the infirmary. So she didn't wipe their memory, the cadets' memories, but she did wipe somebody's memory.
Right. And she references the healer, or maybe Xaden references the healer.
Xaden does.
Saying that, she used her signet basically to wipe the healer's memories. Like, she's not going to remember it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the only reference you really get. But we do know that she's been wiping memories, and she's been on missions already.
Yeah. And in this case, Xaden says that she was delivering the weapons that Xaden had brought. Yeah. And we learn a little bit more about that later.
Right.
So, quick fun little note. Xaden says he put himself intentionally between Violet and Liam because even though he knows nothing is going on with Liam and Violet, Liam can still back the fuck up when he's around.
Yeah, right. I mean, we know. So Liam is a great, person, right? And he's referred to as handsome, strong, good fighter, smart. Xaden's used to being number one. Liam's give you a run for your money, too. So even though, you can trust Liam's not going to do anything wrong. It's understandable jealousy.
Well, and we got the other glimpse of that in the other Xaden POV chapter. I think it was chapter 9 at Threshing.
Right.
It was kind of a little bit of that hint of potential jealousy of Liam.
There's actually a potential hint of jealousy towards Dane in this POV chapter, which is kind of funny. So, well, the next thing that happens is Xaden basically just spends the whole beginning of this interaction in front of the assembly or whatever, just kind of emasculating Dane the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's at least a page of him just staring at Dane, and then Dane, basically gets called on by Mira to answer a question, and he snaps his vision away. And Xaden's like, I win.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. But yeah, he just bitches him down the whole time by staring him in his eyes. And just tries to get under his skin. And it's perfect. It's what you would think Xaden's thinking about.
It is. Even the very first sentence of the bonus chapter I showed you right after I read it. I'm like, oh, you're going to love this.
Yeah. It starts right off with basically fuck Dane.
Yeah.
So I love it. Yeah. But that is what's going on through Xaden's mind. It's perfect because that's what I imagine. So I'm happy. It's like a check in the box. Yep, he is who I thought he is.
So Xaden mentions that he's been noticing this bond between him and Violet growing, and that Sigale basically confirmed it to him and told him that could potentially happen, but that Taryn, for whatever reason, has not told Violet yet. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, and I feel like when you read Fourth Wing, it kind of seems like Taryn is very much so easing her in, and this is just another example, I think, of him easing her into something, not putting too much on her plate at once.
True.
And that's all new stuff that not every other writer's dealing with. I mean, she's kind of alone in this right now.
Yeah.
So we think,
Well, we also learned that Xaden and Liam's foster parent not only taught them how to fight, but also apparently made sure they knew battle strategy, which I think this confirms whoever this was had to be involved with the rebellion and just really good at hiding it.
Right. And I think it's important because, Xaden says something along the lines of we've basically being taught a battle strategy since a young age or whatever, since being children or whatever. And so we've kind of gone back and forth on a different episode about that also, how much did they know, the foster parents, what did they give them? Why did they teach them to fight if they thought they would be part of another rebellion? Whoever this person is also taught them battle tactics.
And at least, assumed they were going to become riders because of potentially the deal that Xaden made.
Yep.
Because also taught them like the running, like mounting, whatever at the end. So they said they've been practicing that since they were kids.
Yep. So I think those kids were, they knew what was coming. Somebody knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we get a glimpse too. You kind of forget. I kind of forget. You get into Iron Flame as far as we've gotten on a reread now. Into part 2. You forget that people look at people with rebellion relics differently in Fourth Wing. You know what I mean? It's still kind of some of that animosity or bigotry or whatever you want to call it. But there's a moment where Mira looks at Liam's rebellion, and Xaden says he better get used to it to himself. And then he says, we're here to stay, or at least until we get Erasmus Forge up and running.
Mm-hmm.
So we know going all the way back to this point, the plan was probably always in place for, they were never going to continue to send marked ones there.
Right.
That was, that was going to end. So
yeah, eventually.
Yep.
Well, a big thing I felt like we got out of this chapter was that Xaden on multiple occasions senses emotion down their bond.
Mm-hmm.
The first one he said seemed like pride, from a pride that Violet was feeling about him. Later on, he senses panic and, multiple other examples throughout this chapter.
Right.
Which we don't really see that on Violet's end.
I don't remember that. Definitely not in Fourth Wing because we've gotten through that. Definitely not in part 1 of Iron Flame because we would have picked up on that.
At least not this blatant. Like, again, This was multiple times where he's like, I felt pride. I felt panic. I felt all of these emotions.
It was Poppy-esque.
Yeah.
Right? Where she can physically see or taste an emotion attached with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what it was. He could physically see an emotion. That's the way that I read it, at least.
Yeah, I definitely sense it. Like, and that was my question is this because of his intrinsic ability? Is that tied to your intention somehow? Definitely later when he says that, he can tell that she's going to bolt.
Right, yeah.
I definitely sensed that was more of him seeing her intentions.
Yep.
But I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Lots of emotions that he felt.
Yep, that was new. Again, lots of new odd things like that dropped into this that you don't see anywhere else.
And created more questions,
sure.
Of course. We got a few answers.
Yeah.
But definitely more questions.
Yep, I love it.
One of the answers, potentially one of my favorite, was that we get confirmation that it was actually Xaden missing Violet and being worried about her. That is the reason they came to Montserrat in the first place. Because, of course, the excuse is given that it's Sigale forcing it because her and Taryn can't be separated.
Right. The 3 days thing, they can't be separated. I got to come here because Sigale misses Taryn so bad and whatever. Like you said, it's not actually the case. And Sigale is the way you get the confirmation because she's basically makes fun of him. And like kind of, I don't know, the way that you read it, the way it comes off is almost like, oh, I wonder what Violet's thinking. I wonder what she's eating right now. Oh, I wonder what she's doing. You know what I mean? Kind of like mocking him.
Well, because she can sense all of his thoughts, and she literally knows that he has actually been thinking those things. Yeah, I loved that banter.
So that was really good. It was really funny.
I did have some mixed feelings about Xaden saying, at least in his mind at this point, about how much he loves Violet this early on.
I feel like he did the last POV. Chapter 16? Was that the last one?
Yeah.
9 and 16. I feel like he does in that one too.
Well, he mentions like falling for her, but this one he like blatantly says, this is why I love her, like on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And again, I got to remind myself, these people are young. It's supposed to be written from young people's point of view.
Yeah.
And certainly
your interpretation of love now is different than what it was when you were 20.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is.
Puppy love and newfound love is different. Not better,
right? But
just different.
Yeah. And as much as I love a good love proclamation, for whatever reason, as older, I'm like, this is a bit much.
Yeah, slow down, because you don't know what you're talking
Slow down. So, again, Xaden is talking about the fact that Imogen is out on this mission. And he says he's worried because he didn't want her caught by Signy flyers because they would have taken the daggers and killed her to prove a point.
Yep.
And I felt the need to look up the map because he said he instead had her meet the flyers she was supposed to be meeting near the Breivik border. So Montserrat is kind of like north. It's
right
on the map, the most northern city that's listed or pointed out. And the Signazen province is essentially right next to it, like right across the mountains.
Okay.
whereas the Breivik province is southeast.
Farther away than the Signum border or whatever?
Yes, significantly farther away.
So just basically he sent her significantly farther away because it was safer
because of, I guess, the Signy flyers, which
are not on his side. They're not
not on his side,
right.
Which could potentially be an answer to some questions we've had in the past about these attacks on the outpost.
Oh, yeah. Why they keep doing it, why they're happening.
Right. Because clearly there's this group of flyers who is not on their side or not working with them.
And even the flyers that they are working with, when, one of the outposts is attacked in Iron Flame and Xaden's like, what the fuck? She's like, not everybody is on the same page. Just like not all of y'all are on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, just referencing the map, like Poor Meal's a big place. So it makes sense that not everybody there would be in agreement, just like everybody in Navarre isn't in agreement. But now we know specifically who, as far as the flyers, is potentially not an ally.
And we always knew, Imogen's in the trusted circle, and we always knew there was some stuff up with her. We just never know why, because she wipes everybody's memories. So,
according to you,
yeah, we're gonna get into it. Xaden says that he knows that they're going to use Dane's signet against other riders, and basically calls him brainwashed by Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true, because he's just like, Dane is this naive child almost. You know what I mean?
He is anyway. I don't know. After reading this chapter, I feel like he might be a criminal mastermind.
Dane might be Venom. We don't know. So Xaden, and he even had a brief, I mentioned this a minute ago, but he had a brief moment of jealousy over Dane, right? So Mira's giving him shits. She's giving him shit on the steps. Telling Violet and Dane, figure it out. You've been friends forever, blah, blah. And he says that they have the kind of history that lingers. And he makes it a reference to jealousy, too.
Yeah.
And you're like, one, tell you what makes me nervous. Dane's still alive at the end of Iron Flame. I venture to not want to ruin this for you, but if you're listening to this point, I'm about to ruin the end of Iron Flame. So heads up. So Xaden is obviously a Venom.
Mm-hmm.
I would hate to see Dane as a fucking character with Violet. Some sort of love triangle, which I can't imagine that would happen. I know I'm speaking outside my mouth here, but
no, I mean, to be honest with you, there's a couple of things that potentially speak to that. One, Rebecca Yarros has come out supposedly and said that Violet and Xaden are endgame. Now, what that means, that can be interpreted a lot of ways. However, that does leave room. In the meantime, it's a 5-book series. We're getting ready to go into book 3. That certainly leaves room in the meantime for other things to happen. Also, she has come out and talked about Dane and her liking his character and him having these redeeming human qualities. And
I know she created them and wrote them, but come on, Rebecca.
So I could see it. I don't like it.
Listen, I took a pretty hard stance last episode before last on Iron Flame, where I was like, yeah, Dane's a fucking bitch. He's the worst, and I'll never trust him. I am reiterating, final stand. I just want to note it, note the time, note the date, note whatever you want. I will never be on Dane's side. Ever. Ever.
Well, again, there's things in this chapter that certainly make you wonder.
Yeah, that's true. So Xaden also, during this chapter, talks about or thinks about killing Mira multiple times, and not like in a serious way, like planning on it. Just he makes one mention to getting his revenge, and he was like, I could take it out on Mira and kill her, but basically Violet would never forgive me. So it's
and Brennan. He said the older
right.
Sorengale sibling.
So just one of those things, like he's still got revenge on his mind a little bit. He's not quite over that. And he does admit to himself that he's only on this trip because Violet was so close to the border, and he couldn't basically stand her being that close to danger and not being there to help her or something.
Which is fair, knowing, of course, what we know after Fourth Wing. I also thought that it was cute. Xaden is talking about how he hopes he'll get over all of these feelings by next year, because obviously them being separated is going to be a problem. But Sigale tells him love isn't something you get over. And basically that was why she had agreed to bring him.
Yeah, I mean, Sigale knows. Sigale's very, very funny. Sigale and Taryn, I would love to read a book just them communicating to each other, just being like very dry humor dicks to each other the whole time.
Yeah.
I would love it. And it would make me laugh, probably.
Yeah, and she cares about Xaden, and she's very wise.
Sure, yeah. She's just, kind of like tough love, straight to the point, That's their relationship. That's how she is. It works.
Yeah, I'm worried about her fate.
Yeah, me too. I am too. I'm actually worried about Terrence. I think Terrence going to gonna die, and that's a bummer. But again, she's got 2 dragons. She can only ride 1. Although they say Andarna will never bear a rider,
Potentially, yeah.
I
Who
don't
knows?
believe that. So, biggest part of really this chapter, normally when you're not reading Xaden's POV, is a drift. Basically the wards go down and a drift is incoming, right? And that's kind of the big part of this chapter. Well, from his point of view, things are the same, but we get a little bit of extra information, obviously.
And some very important information.
Right. So they get alerted that the drift is coming, and Sigale tells Xaden that it isn't friendly, right? Because he asks basically, like, is it ours? Like, whatever. And she's like, nope, it's not friendly. They pretty much immediately go into the only way that this could be known is basically like a spy, right? He said, we have an enemy within the keep, or we have enemies within the keep.
And their main justification for that is because the wards are down.
Right.
And they're saying, like, somebody had to have done that intentionally.
Yep. So, basically, we're very much so on the, like, if you read it, you're going to come away with, okay, there's a spy, there's a venom, whatever, right? So that's the question. Is this person that's taking the wards down intentionally, that is there, is it a venom, or is it like I need to come up with a word, but somebody who is just like bound by honor no matter what, like blind follower, right? Because it's not necessarily that everybody's a venom who's against them, as much as they just support Navarre and they're willing to let Perumish citizens die, right? Like, that's basically the thing. So was this person that took down the wards, are they a venom because they're trying to... We got 2 different wars going on. Mm-hmm. We got venom infiltrating from the outside trying to kill everybody. Mm-hmm. And then we have Navarre's own internal spies and all this shit going on trying to take out this second rebellion.
Yeah, I mean, because this is, like, interesting, because what would be the motivation here? Obviously, the purpose of the person taking down the wards was to allow the drift to come in. Yeah. Right? Yep. And in theory, because the drift wanted to get at the alloy daggers, but if there's someone inside, wouldn't that person have been able to take the daggers themselves and made this a lot easier? Like, that makes it seem like the intent is to cause harm.
Sure. But that's the thing. Is this venom related or Navarre related?
Like, you mean somebody from Poor Meal?
Poor Meal versus, Navarre. Again, you have 2 separate kind of like fights going on. So you don't know who the enemies are and what side their enemy is on, you know what I mean? But I do know this, Imogen can't be trusted. So she went to the border, she's delivered the weapons cache, everything's good, she's gonna come back, she done wiped some memories at some poor healers, everybody's like, oh, it's cool, no big deal. No, Imogen can't be trusted. But Xaden says he can get Violet out and then figure out who brought down the wards, right? And like that's basically what he's telling Sigale, I think.
Yeah.
Or himself. But it becomes it's just not an option. Like, he has to leave, so she'll leave. She's not going to leave without him because Mira's there. The only way she's going to leave is by him physically tossing her onto her fucking dragon.
Right, and that's kind of what Sigale says is you have to leave so that she leaves because she's not going to leave without Mira.
Yep. So you kind of see into there's a possibility he felt like he could figure something out then, but he chose Violet over that.
Yep. Well, we also get confirmation that Xaden's shadows can help him detect people. I know there's been several instances where he's been able to detect people and know people are around, and we thought maybe it was using his intensic abilities, but he kind of confirms here that he pushes his shadows out to see if anybody's coming down the hallway.
Yep. And I think in our last episode, that was one of the notes when they were escaping after getting the journal, his shadows find like a couple people down. So, yeah. I mean, and again, hell of a signet. So many uses. Can keep you safe, from a fall, can be a shield, can take out other people.
Can use them to physically like hold things. Like at one point in the scene at the end too, it was him using it to like hold a bunch of weapons.
Man, you remember in
it's like
one of those octopus. Marvel movies we watch, and Spider-Man's trying to hold that ship, like
Yeah,
and he's got all those little spider webs. You could do that with shadows.
You could.
He's basically Spider-Man also.
Also Spider-Man.
Xaden Spider-Man.
So we get this interaction between Xaden and Liam, where Liam is asking us, is this us? Are we the ones that took the wards down?
Right.
And Xaden confirms that no, they're not, and they say they have no operations going on in the area. Which leads you to believe that potentially the rebellion has been stealing from outposts. Because if that's Liam's first go-to,
Right.
did we do this, then that must have happened before.
So, yeah, I'm thinking you got Brennan and this other group of people that are outside the borders that they kind of got their own thing going, their rebellion going. Is it them sending people over, the flyers that are working with them and Griffin flyers, and that's who he's referring to as being like, is this us, or is he referring to like Imogen can wipe memories? Is she just going up in the outpost that they're at and just taking shit and wiping memories on her way out? Like,
right.
That was my question more so. Is it us? Are they talking about the Griffin flyers? Is it us, or is it us? Is it actually physically Bodhi, Garrick? You know, I'm using them as examples, but
yeah, that's a good question. I took it as like, is it us, as in, is it a part of the revolution or the rebellion?
Okay.
But he could mean, is it us specifically? So this was potentially one of the biggest holy crap moments of this chapter, is that as they're climbing up to the ramparts to get out, Xaden makes a comment saying, is he out of breath or is it just me? Talking about Dane.
Yep. So
what does this mean? That was not a throwaway line.
No.
Why is Dane out of breath?
Exactly. All right. So this is what I have on it. And yes, again, to paint the picture, they're climbing up. They got to go up to get out of here, right? And Xaden's basically got Violet by the way. She's screaming for Mira. This is before she's really accepted, what she needs to be. So she's screaming and kicking for Mira. And Dane just shows up above them out of breath. And,
right.
And again, like you said, it's not a throwaway line. It's a point made. Like,
it seems to be a point, because I feel like if he was like, Dane was out of breath, I'd be like, okay, well, everybody's been running around to try to get out of here. But
is it just me?
This was a pointed, is it just me or is he out of breath? Like, that was not a throwaway.
There was something to it.
Yes.
So, and that's it. And we really don't know what it is, right? So my thoughts are, did Dane, as far as taking the wards down, did Dane set something to bring down the wards and then have to go retrieve whatever that was that brought the wards down? Did he go put his hands on someone? Was there a secondary mission to retrieve memories? Did he just take it upon himself since he was there to retrieve memories from someone? That, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, my question was, did he run around to talk to the person who took down the wards? Like,
right. Yeah, he knew who it was. Or,
like, he had to confirm with them or, somehow check in with them.
Yeah, to sum it up, Dane's a fucking bitch. And he's up to no good.
That Double. Really, it makes it seem that way.
Dane's a fucking bitch, which is number one, but he's up to no good.
And and if that's the case, then again, criminal mastermind, because later he gets Xaden to trust him enough to let him come to Erasure, if that's the case.
We got a problem on our hands. I think what we just found out is that Onyx Storm is going to be some Dane is not to be trusted shit going on.
Yeah.
I think Xaden's fucked.
I definitely think that this one little line does, and again, it's one sentence.
It could be a lot of nothing, but it's not, though.
It, to me, potentially completely overthrows Dane's whole redemption arc that he gets in part 2 of Iron Flame.
No, confirmation Dane's bad.
He might be. He might be. And if he is bad, then he's real bad, because, again, he's getting Xaden to trust him. He's able to see his intentions, and he still trusts him.
Now, is he Venom bad or just a bad guy?
I don't know.
Is he a loyal, faithful servant of Navarre, or is he a Venom? I would say loyal, faithful servant of Navarre.
So I would say that if it were not for everything that transpires in the second half of Iron Flame. Again, if here Dane is actively, and again, this is all before he knows the truth, potentially.
Yeah, we're halfway through Fourth Wing here.
Yeah.
Well, not halfway, but
yeah, this is all potentially before he knows the truth or whatever. So it could have been he's done some shady shit in the past, and he really does have his redemption has changed mind.
You can never fucking trust Dane.
But if that's not the case, then he's real bad, because he gets Violet to trust him again. He comes to Erasure with them. He's a part of the rebellion at that point.
Yep.
That's real bad.
If somehow you're listening to this bonus episode and you don't listen to our podcast, one, shame on you. But two, I often refer to Venom and Venom. And Venom, to me, I don't know if I've ever explained this, maybe extra bonus, means that, like, I know you're a fucking Venom, right? So it's like a no-brainer, right? Jack Barlow, Varys, Xaden. And for me, Colonel Atos.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 4. I know your ass is a fucking Venom.
Mm-hmm.
And those are Venom. Then I have Venom, which means these are people that I believe could be Venom.
Right.
Right? Again, because
that's a long list.
That's a long list. But you only show symptoms or whatever, physical effects, red-rimmed eyes, all that shit, right after you've drawn power. Jack Barlow doesn't even have that shit right now running around part 2 of fucking Iron Flame. Eyes glacial blue every time they're mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hasn't just drawn power. However, when he drew power and put it into Violet's chest in Fourth Wing, immediately his eyes were red.
Mm-hmm.
So, clear that up. Dane's on my Venom list.
Mm.
Because now it's possible. I'm not ready to put him on Venom because I don't know. But like father, like son.
Add it to the list.
Add to the list. All right. Sorry. That was like a 2-minute rant.
It was, but it was fair. So, again, here towards the end, Xaden lets his shields down intentionally. And he says that Violet's emotions come rushing through. Mm-hmm. And he jumps real quick to kissing her is the only option here. Yeah. That's the only possible way.
Yeah. He was like, fuck. Only thing I can do is put my tongue on her fucking tongue. It's the only way to survive this. I gotta grab a handful of ass cheek and kiss her as hard as I can.
Yeah, it was pretty good descriptions. I didn't hate it. It was good.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I'm not hating on it either then. You know what I mean? I don't know why this word makes me laugh, but loathe, that word makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to Google it or you knew what it meant?
No, I know what loathe means.
Just making sure.
Loathe? Come on, man. That's like a 6th grade word. I at least read on an 8th grade level. So Xaden has been, just like he said, he started the chapter talking shit about Dane, just like fucking Dane's a bitch.
Yeah.
I know he's a bitch, And he ends it basically doing the same thing. He ends it talking about how he loathes the simpering daddy's boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn. And
I think he calls him daddy's boy a couple times, which is funny.
Well, he refers to him.
I've said that.
Well, he does. And he's referred to him as whining or whiny.
Uh-huh.
At least 3 or 4 times in this POV.
Yeah.
Again, if you're 4, Dane just getting smashed in a Xaden POV, it's a great one to read.
It is. So a couple of talking points for the end here. That was pretty much the bulk of the chapter there.
The bulk.
But when Rebecca Yarros was kind of teasing this bonus chapter the other day, she put in a caption of it that her favorite thing about writing this series is how the truth differs based on who's telling it.
I hate that.
What from this chapter do you think she could have been referring to?
Oh, man. Ooh, there's a lot, right? So, well, is there a lot?
I have one easy, softball one.
Okay.
That it's as simple as the difference in their relationship point of view.
Like his is all physical?
Well, not even that, but just that Violet, through her point of view from this chapter, is all oh, well, I'm so attracted to Xaden, the feelings aren't mutual, that kind of thing. Whereas obviously from Xaden's point of view, that truth is much different because he's literally professing his love for her in his mind.
Right.
So it could be as simple as that.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. That makes sense. I also think something with the drift coming his truth is what Sigale told him.
Mm-hmm.
The dragons are in charge, and the dragons tell you what they want. They let you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you can't trust Sigale, but you can't trust dragons because they're in charge. So I don't know if it's based on that because his truth is based solely on what Sigale has told him.
Yeah. I
don't know if it's maybe the Dane interaction with Mira. That's kind of a big part of the chapter where I don't know. I can't really think of much in this chapter that would change, though.
Well, see, the other thing I was wondering is just because I do feel like from this chapter, we got confirmation that because we see things from Violet's point of view all of the time, we're still missing information. We're still missing a lot of information. And specifically, we're still missing information that Xaden has.
Yeah, this was not that it's an insignificant chapter when you read it the first time, but it's certainly not the most significant chapter in the world.
Right.
And we just took 35 plus minutes of notes on a chapter that is already written once.
Right.
This is just a little bit different.
And all the dialogue is the same.
It's the same.
It's only his internal thoughts.
We're so let's go pop into this quick bonus episode. We're shit, this is an episode.
It is. There was a lot more to it. Well, the only other thing that I wanted to point out was we were not looking for second signet clues when we did our Fourth Wing coverage. However, there were a couple of things that stood out to me. One being Xaden made a comment about lying being easy, except when it comes to Violet. And he says he hasn't quite figured that out yet.
Ooh, man, that's a good one.
Well, and one of our potential second signet theories that we're following is Violet being a truthsayer.
And that was a clear truthsayer line.
It was.
He's acknowledging that he doesn't even know why he can't. Now, it could be love related.
Love related.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's a clear example. You shouldn't be able to lie to someone you love like that.
Yeah.
However, in my brain, I'm like,
yeah.
Conspiracies.
Always conspiracies.
My conspiracy radar went off. Started dinging and shit.
Well, the other two weren't big ones. Towards the end, Violet, like immediately when Xaden stops kissing her, she knows exactly why he had done what he did. She knew that it was as a distraction. Could just be because she's a smart girl. Also could be some sort of intrinsic and or being able to figure things out. Like she's just a fast processor.
I don't know what the word is for it, but her ability to take something, learn it, understand it, retain it, and be able to...
like logic through things, puzzle things out.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is for that either.
Yeah.
But yes.
And the last one is just what's the deal with this emotions thing? Is that coming from her signet? Is that coming from his signet?
Listen, have you ever heard of Mrs. Poppy Castillo, Hawk Throne Denier? Okay, so Mrs. Poppy is the baddest bitch on whatever realm they're in. Okay, I'm telling you now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, again, shame on you.
We got some crossover again. Crossover.
If you don't know, listen up here in a couple months. We'll be starting that one. But she is the baddest. And that's what it reminded me of. Just the emotions thing was very similar. Seeing or feeling an emotion and giving it a physical aspect. That's deep. That's some deep magic shit.
It was. But again,
there's more to that.
Whose side was it coming from? Was it Violet? I almost said Poppy. Was it Violet projecting her emotions in some way? Or was it his intrinsic ability?
What did we just finish in our last episode? We put out yesterday. We finished, not the interrogation, but the interrogation.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, when Dane is in there about to fuck her up, I even talked about she projects her feelings and emotions of Russin, her thoughts. She projects Liam's death and the physical pain and emotional pain. All that. She puts those emotions and feelings into him and makes him feel them.
Right.
And we skip past that like nothing else fucking happens, right? Like, I mean, we discussed it, obviously, but normally you don't even think about it. This is another emotion-related example of something going on.
It is.
So maybe you're right. She's projecting her emotions.
I don't know.
Some shit going on with that too.
It is.
She knows Poppy. They cousin.
Yep. But doubtful, but.
I don't know. Everybody's just sending them a leg. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
All right.
Motherfucking Nectos and Nictos. You know what I'm saying? Everybody come from Nictos, though. You don't know that's on you.
All right. Enough crossover.
All right. I can't help it. I'm so excited.
So that's it for our bonus episode.
That's it for one chapter. It's just 40 minutes.
Again, it is definitely worth reading. We covered a bulk of it. Still worth reading, in my opinion, because we did not give you every word.
We gave you what we picked up on one read.
Yeah.
We didn't do multiple rereads. We haven't read it, came back, read it. So, we just read it.
Yeah.
And this is what we thought and came up with.
But it was great.
Yeah.
It was worth it. You should definitely check it out.
Yep. In the meantime, if you're not listening to us, we put out episodes every Monday. You can follow us on Instagram at TillBooksPod or on TikTok at till.books.pod. Or you can shoot us a DM or email us, tillbookspod@gmail.com.
Yep. We'd love to hear from you and keep listening.
Absolutely. See you next Monday.
See you Monday.